So did you always want to, because I know you founded and created Shutdown Music. Was that always like in the plan for you to create your own almost boutique kind of label for sync?
Yeah, I would call it a music house.
Music
We
house.
were never officially on the publisher side.
Okay.
I wanted to get a label out in 2020 and then again in 2024. I never officially did it. I was right on the precipice.
Okay.
But yeah, we were a music house. And how I started with that, 2015, I lived after I graduated high school. I was 17, 18, graduated early, lived in Israel with my mom for a year. I'm Israeli American. My
Okay.
mom's out there around Tel Aviv area. Shout out
Okay.
to my mom. If you're watching this, probably
Shout out
not.
to mom.
Maybe I'll show her this little piece,
Shoot her
little
the
clip.
link.
I read Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki,
Oh,
and it talked about when I was like 17, talked about like other people's taking advantage of other people's time, other people's talents, and really leveraging that to make more money. And I'm like, what if I could do that in sync? So at that point, I've already had been working with First Com, which is now Universal Production Music after the merger a couple years ago with Killer Tracks,
mm-hmm.
and Megatracks, which is a pretty big independent library. Really good relationship with them, a decade long at this point. But I work with some big libraries as a sole producer. And I was like, okay, cool. Let me build out my team and make that happen. So I slowly but surely, over the course of a year, that whole 2015, I was just building my team out. I think I probably got 30, 40 people on my team by the end of that year.
Mm-hmm.
And we made music. We made great music. I had only been producing for 3, 4 years at the time. So I recruited producers that have been producing for 6, 7, 8 years.
Yeah.
I would go in and executive produce it and give notes, and we would make music that I was not good at too, but
Yeah.
I could give notes on. So like a lot of EDM stuff, I was just not good. Like I'm a hip hop guy, a lot of Afro pop, Latin stuff. So I recruited a lot of those guys, a lot of hip hop guys, and it went from there.
Yeah. Bro, Rich Dad Poor Dad, everybody needs to read it. It's a game changer, bro. It's like something clicks in your mind after reading that, and you look at leverage differently. If you've never looked into leveraging things and just the mindset that you need to shift into to really level up in anything, I feel like that book is highly recommended. So it's funny, man.
Very foundational for me,
Yeah.
incredibly. And I read that with my little brother when he was 8,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully it helped him shift some kind of mindset within him. But yeah, incredibly foundational for me. I've read a million business books and spiritual books and stuff like that since. I'm very well read. A lot of Aristotle, Plato, stuff like that. The Bible I like to read. But yeah, very foundational book, Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah, man. Dope. We got a question from Miguel. It says, speaking of publishing, is it possible that someone has a publishing company and has Song Trust managing publishing?
That's a question for you, my brother. I have no idea about Song Trust.
Yeah, that is possible. I have some tracks that are registered with Song Trust but with a lot of the deals that I do in sync, usually they're with other publishers. And then when that situation happens, usually Song Trust just isn't involved at all in that, because there are pub admins, the publishers we work with in sync do that. So I don't really have to worry about it too much. But yeah, good question. Yeah, man. So that's dope. Just building out a team, leveraging other people's time. I know that's a huge thing, especially if you're working, if you have a day job, figuring out ways to leverage. That's been a huge thing in my business as well. It's just outsourcing, like a lot of the things that would just eat up a bunch of time from creating metadata, submission, uploads, and all that stuff that just eats up time, man. Just give it to
You
somebody.
got to do it. There's no one person $1 billion company. And what I built my business on was great relationships with my clients, incredible music, that was the number one thing, but deal flow. I was thinking like, okay, if I have 10 new albums, I can get 10 new albums commissioned to me a month. I can do that. And if I could supply for that, we could do really well. And in 2020, we can get into this stuff, but I left the business in November 2020. We did 1,000 songs in 2020. So around 90 to 100 albums of music. And it was very possible. And it was a lot of project management, a lot of moving parts. I built like over 200 step-by-step processes and systems for my team. I had an in-house team of 8 employees, but it's very possible. And it's just about deal flow at the end of the day.
Yeah. Love that. Today's video is brought to you by TV Placement Mastery. This is my high-level coaching program for producers to fast track you to your first licensing deal within 90 days. Now, this is an invite-only program, so you have to apply, and I only work with a few producers at a time. So just go to tvplacementmastery.com or click the link in the description to apply. Systems, bro. Like that, to have that level of output, you absolutely have to have systems. I love that you mentioned that. But yeah, we're definitely going to dig into what you're doing now as well. Gabba Music Work says, do you register your songs with a PRO when you complete them before submitting? I can't get a straight answer. Some say yes, some say let the library take care of it.
Hell no.
Yep.
You don't register them.
Yeah, I let the library take care of it. Because what I found is it ends up being like a waste of time, especially if they name it something different, throw their little prefix or suffix on it. They take care of that stuff. And then I'll go in and double check because they screw stuff up. They're human just like us. So you got to go in and say, hey, it's wrong percentage, or you just completely left a co-writer off altogether. Veteran Beat says, congrats on your journey. What advice would you give your younger self starting out?
Whoa. Great question. Is that for me?
Yeah, that's for you, bro.
Okay. Let me handle that one.
Mind you, Ty was like already a monster as his younger self.
Appreciate it. I would definitely give myself advice. Get into Music for Sync earlier from day one. Number one, back in 2012, it's tough, dude. Even like the top 1% of producers in 2012, super talented. You're making like 20, 30K a year. So get into that earlier. And I would tell myself to get on the ownership side of things. Like I did that label with Universal Music. I did a label with No Sheet Music out of the UK that's still running actually. I'm still making music for it right now on the side. But I would be like, get into the ownership side and own your publishing and try to be that distributor. If I had to give myself advice, for sure, because look at the food chain of music. The networks are paying the PROs, which are paying the publishing companies, which are paying the producers, right? So it's okay. Let me climb up from producer. Let me climb the chain up to music house a little bit. Now I have other producers that work with me and stuff like that. Leverage that, but let me climb even more into a place of a publisher where I have that distribution. And the more you climb up the chain, the more money you make. Yeah. So the PROs pay out this much to the publishers, and then they cut that at least in half. And what they're paying you, they have payroll, their employees and insurance and all, and they're making a profit. And instead become that publisher, which is quite a hefty task. Like it really is to get that distro with the music soups and stuff like that. But I would really put a lot of effort into doing that if I had to go back.
Yeah. So did you end up doing that eventually?
I was going to release my label Uncivilized Music in 2020.
Okay.
I ended up selling, it was going to be the best modern music in the history of production music. Like that was the concept behind it. Mm-hmm. I ended up dropping it, sold all the albums to Red Bull for $50K. Mm-hmm. And then I left the music industry, but then in April, I was going to restart the label. But then me and my girlfriend are talking about getting super serious about having a family. So I made a pivot into something else in the business space. Yeah. But I was going to release that label twice. I didn't go through with it. I have two in-house third-party labels, one with Universal. We did like 15, 20 albums before I let go of that. I left the music industry, and one with No Sheet Music out of the UK.
Okay.
But I don't get publishing on that. So we just are in charge of all the albums, the cover art, all that stuff, the album concepts. They ingest it, and then they are the publishers on that.
Got you. Okay, that's what's up.